Are you ready to remember glycolysis in just 3 minutes? This video is just for you. You need to know 3 things to know glycolysis in 3 minutes. What are they? Your great-grandmother actually, when she bakes pies. Remember, she baked pies, and the pie itself and yourself with a smartphone all the time. So if you know these 3 things, you can connect and you can easily remember glycolysis within 3 minutes. So let's start. Glycolysis is a metabolic process of converting glucose into pyruvate, and actually it is going through 10 separate stages. Okay, actually 10 steps are required with 10 different enzymes, so there are 11 different intermediates. So let's talk about each of them. So the first part that I'm going to talk about is the steps on all the other intermediates of the glycolysis, and for that you need to know your great-grandmother, a pie, and the number 10. Why 10? Because it carried 10 separate intermediates. So let's begin to know the acronym and actually the mnemonic. Great grandmother throws fresh fruit dish and go by picking pumpkins to prepare pies. This is what you need to remember. Great grandmother throws fresh fruit dish and go by picking pumpkins to prepare pies. Now remember, in this, throughout this long sentence, it's all about making pie and actually making pumpkin pie by your great grandmother. And the colors represented here in red means the first letters represent the intermediates of glycolysis, and the green letters are the important steps of glycolysis. So let's begin with the first one. So great, it starts with G, means glucose. Another G, glucose 6-phosphate. Then FR, remember, fructose 6-phosphate. FRU, what else is that? Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Then DI, dihydroxyacetone phosphate. And then G again, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Then B, actually bi, 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. You also have a bi in here. Then P, 3-phosphoglycerate. Then another P, 2-phosphoglycerate. Then another P, and actually it's PEP, prepared, so phosphoenol pyruvate, which is also known as PEP. And then ultimately pies pyruvate. So that was starting from glucose, ending in pyruvate. All the different intermediates of glycolysis. You can see 10 separate intermediates out there. So as there is 10 separate intermediates, you can also see the intermediates in the actual list taken from Nelson and Cox. And this book you can also see we're going from glucose till pyruvate. And I told you this green colored drawings that we showed earlier, that is di, pi. So all these things, di is dihydroxyacetone phosphate. And dihydroxyacetone phosphate is the one which is a branch point of this glycolysis. It's the middle of the glycolysis. So any of the steps upward are known as preparatory phase. That means in those steps in glycolysis they take ATP, and the later states after the di or dihydroxyacetone phosphate, they are known as the reproductive phase. So in this case they produce ATP. Okay, so that's how easy it is, not only to know the intermediates but also to know the important steps. Now let's talk about the enzymes that are involved. To understand enzymes, you need to know yourself with, again, thinking of pie, because remember, your grandmother prepared pie for you, so you need to eat that pie, but right now you're talking with a phone. So he put the phone and tried to get the plastic plate to eat pie. This is another sentence that you need to remember. Right? So begins with he. So remember, this will be the list of enzymes required in every single steps. So starts with, if you look at here, let me also show you the actual picture. He, hexokinase, and this is the first enzyme required in the first phase. Then P, phosphofructoisomerase, the second enzyme which is involved. Then another PHO, so obviously phosphofructokinase, the third enzyme involved. Then A, aldolase, the fourth enzyme involved. TRI, triose phosphate isomerase. See, triose phosphate isomerase is the fifth enzyme involved. G, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase, sixth enzyme utilized. Then P, phosphoglycerokinase, seventh enzyme. Another P, phosphoglyceromutase, eighth enzyme. E, what? Enolase, ninth enzyme. And PI, pyruvate kinase. So it simply sounds like pi, that's why I took it. So pyruvate kinase, the last enzyme, or the 10th enzyme of this process. So you see, it's a rule of 10 with 10 enzymes and intermediates that are involved, and it's all about your great grandmother preparing pie for you, and then you're putting your phone, try to get the plastic plate to eat pie. So hope you get an understanding of how to remember glycolysis in very less time.